why I'm here is because I really am trying to move more into the sales enablement space.
Okay, cool. Well, then hopefully this will be helpful. So I will go ahead and volunteer to, I'll just start with, hi, my name is Leah Carrubba. My current role is with Dell Technologies on their Dell Financial Services learning and development team. We actually are sales enablement, but we're called learning and development because we design all of the training. I support sellers globally from both an internal and channel partner perspective. We also support the core sales teams that work with our Dell Financial sellers, Dell Financial Services sellers. Anyway, my hope for this session is that we can have an interesting dialogue and you can take from what I've done in terms of a little bit of research and we can expand upon that. And then my favorite place in Austin is just at the bottom of the hill in my neighborhood. I can drop my stand-up paddleboard on the water in Lake Austin, and it's just like heaven, little slice of heaven when it's not too cold.
Awesome.
So, who would like to jump in and do their intro?
I'll go next, Leah. This
Cool.
is Lisa Curry, and I live in Round Rock, so I live north of Austin. I've been a member of ATD for about 4 or 5 years now, and like I said, I'm an L&D professional right now doing contract work for various organizations looking for new opportunities within sales enablement. So that's kind of why I'm here. What did you say about an area that I love walking around my neighborhood? I live in a golfing community in Round Rock, and you know, I'm fortunate I don't live on the golf course side because otherwise the windows would be broken all the time. So I live on the other side, but it's a beautiful area just to walk around and peaceful. And the other piece that I love is I have a front porch, so I sit on my front porch in the mornings and drink coffee, or at night and have a drink, and it's just so peaceful, and you can hear the animals and the birds and just kind of chill, which is nice during this crazy time. So
It is, absolutely. Awesome, thank you. So now I'm gonna say we're gonna have a trifecta. Antoinette, would you go next? All the strong women, and then Andrew will bring up the back with his strength.
Yeah, I don't mind going. So I'm Antoinette Abdefella. My current role is CEO of EXP Design. We're a creative learning agency, and we support different type of companies right now. One is a tech company that provides learning for their small business customers, um, so they can eventually utilize their products. And then at times we work with directly with sales teams. And so I'm hoping to get out of this session just more ideas and just to share ideas that I've used before to see how we can support each other in that way. And so my favorite Austin spot, this one is the hardest question. Because so I love the lake, but I love when it's not so crowded.
Mhm.
Like even in COVID, it's still a lot of people there. And then I love Congress too. Just
Uh-huh.
because there's an ice cream spot there. I want to say it's Jenny's.
Amy, Amy's,
Amy's.
Amy's.
Well, it's like
That's
now it's like
cool.
about 3 different spots. I think Amy's is right across the street, and that's the classic. There's a new spot, um, and you can't really go inside, but they have some great ice cream. So
Uh-oh. Uh-oh, I'm not listening. I love ice cream so much. That's awesome. That's great. I love it. Well, thank you for sharing. And Drew, bringing up the back.
All right. Well, my name is Drew Bezeron. My current role, I'm a sales consultant in the Home Advisor or company. New role, and we sound like we may have 2 or 3 more offers coming online. The interview process is ongoing now.
Yay.
Uh, Waiting on some decisions. Where I'm in the third interview with another company, and we keep going on. but I support salespeople in their training to make them leaders. And I enjoy making salespeople very, very comfortable with what they do. My hope for this session is to gain ideas as to what sales enablement is, as well as how I could get involved in it, share ideas, and foster collaboration. Now, my favorite Austin spot, I don't live in Austin yet, but I'll give you one of my favorite spots. It's a place in where our town I live called the Atchafalaya River. Very scenic area. It's very quiet and peaceful. You can go fishing out there.
Mhm.
And I enjoy watching the sunsets and enjoying the day out there.
Nice. I love that.
Hmm.
Excellent. Well, thank you. Thank you guys for sharing. So, as you can imagine, as we get more people joining the sales enablement group, um, we're going to hear more from other people. And the idea that with the long introduction is actually so we can really get to know each other, and we'll do some networking activities. So what I had in mind for today, and we are going to truncate it just slightly, just because you're going to laugh, but my he's at football practice now. He comes home and he has to go to lacrosse practice. So I do have to make sure I get him out the door on time. But I still think we're going to have plenty of time to talk. So we're going to start with just 10 minutes. I'm going to share maybe 5-10 minutes of what I've learned just researching continuous learning. So that was kind of the topic for today. And then we're going to do a couple of little discussion activities, and then we'll debrief. And finally, we'll close with some, last minute questions, comments. I do have a survey if I can figure out how to get it to work. It's a new thing for us to do the survey during, and it is anonymous, but anyhow, so continuous learning. Here's what I found, and I thought it was kind of interesting. When I thought about our sales people and how they learn, and whether it's from the beginning of their learning process, which is onboarding, through to they're tenured, they've mastered it, they're old codgers, they know what they're doing, they don't need any more training. What I thought was interesting was this research, which says 80% of the sales force did not retain what they learned 30 days after they walked away from training. And this is specific to onboarding, but I thought about this from the perspective of how do we know if we're connecting our training to what they're actually doing? And what I liked when I read this was the idea that, the learn like you earn concept, where it's continual. And I'll tell you a little story, because when I started working specifically with salespeople in onboarding programs, and we were trying to figure out how to address that issue of retention of content, because you cram so much into their heads and then all of a sudden they're gone and you have no way to track it. A couple of years ago, 2018, we redesigned a sales academy program, and it was a 4-week program. So it was still pretty hefty. But after that 4 weeks, they had 9 weeks of coaching. So they had time in role without quota to continue to learn. So that's a truncated example of continuous learning. So we taught them everything they needed to know. We taught them selling skills and product skills and all the processes and how to use the Salesforce.com applications and everything they were going to need to know. And we wrapped it in a case study, so they followed that. But then what we could have done is said, thank you very much, you're done, get out of here, go sell something. And in fact, what happened is in some of the regions around the world, that's how they did it. They said, we're going to give them 30 days. They complained about the 30 days, and then they let them loose. What happened in North America with this particular study or this particular program, 200% quota a year later. They were not only hitting their target quota, they were knocking it out of the ballpark, because we had spent that 9 weeks after training, reinforcing, giving them time to do mini activities, and working to build in the concept of continuous learning. That it didn't stop after the doors closed to the training room. Hi, Reagan Lucas. I'm so glad to see your name. Nice to see you.
Sorry, I'm running late.
That's okay. We're all on our own time scales. There's no judgment here. There's a no judgment zone. Just nice to see you. And I'll circle back so you can introduce yourself after I finish this point, which is the fact that when we're thinking about continuous learning, we can first think about it from the onboarding or the initial stage of someone's learning, and how do we make that better? And then I challenge you to think about it in each of the other stages, and we're going to talk about the learning curve in a second. Let me pause for a second and say, what are your thoughts about that concept or what I just shared? On my very weighty slide. I know it's got more words on it than it should.
You talk about learn like you earn.
Learn like you earn. The idea, I'm curious to know your thoughts in terms of the idea that instead of an onboarding program that stops after, let's say it's a week or 2 weeks or 4 weeks, versus the program that has built-in coaching, built-in progress, markers for the next, whatever, X, 9 weeks. You could make it that's 1 quarter. So when you start with people, and that's thinking about it from the perspective of the new learner, or the new seller.
Leah, I think that's a great approach. And another thing I've seen or read about is where they take a new hire once they're trained and they pair them up with a more seasoned, successful salesperson. And that's probably where some of the coaching comes in. You have people that are good at it, and maybe you pair them up. And it could be 9 weeks, could be longer, shorter, but you have a set time frame to try and help people get comfortable with what they're doing instead of just transferring knowledge. And then, like you said, putting them out in the field and then them floundering because they haven't really had the experience.
Absolutely.
Leah, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that I've found that, so I love the concept too. And I'm not trying to be the Debbie Downer and just come with objections, but I think the idea, everybody likes it, both enablement, training, instructionals, everybody likes it, and sales likes it too. The trouble is you end up having a sort of bullpen of your really good mentors, your really good sellers who are also good mentors, which is a not a big number in most companies. Yep. And so they end up getting called upon, and you lean upon them time and again. And after a while, you've gone to that well so many times, it's like, is there anybody else that we could possibly? No, it's that same person. She's really good.
That's hilarious. It's so funny that you say that, because I have 4 e-learning courses that I've published in the last year. And there's a guy named Bob, and Bob is in all of them. And part of it is because he and I connect on his philosophy of selling, which is to some extent Challenger, a little bit of Sandler. And it's just innate to him. And it's funny that you said that, because I don't think it's an objection. When Lisa was talking, the first thing that came to mind for me was I would want more than one mentor for that person, because I wouldn't want somebody to be trained in one direction and miss out on other angles of how it's done. So I feel like a mentor program, which is in most companies, they don't have coaching. They can't afford to hire people who specifically coach sellers after training. You could build a mentor program, but I would say it has to have more than one mentor for each seller. Otherwise, you're going to get everybody acts like Bob and nobody ever acts like Leah or Reagan or Lisa,
Yep. It's it's a real challenge to try to, hopefully you'd have an entire organization full of mentors.
Yeah.
who are
Yes.
ready and able to pay it forward, as it were.
Well, it's funny that you say that because let me see if I have it here. And I already asked you that question. Nope, I'm not going to go there. I was listening to a conversation today around the S curve and the idea that we have different parts of our learning journey. There's the inexperienced, there's the new, you're learning something you've never learned. There's the, now I'm blanking on what it's called. Hang on, I'm gonna go back to my notes for a second because I have it written down because it really struck me. Give me one second. Oh, here it is. It's the launch point, the sweet spot, and mastery. So what happens is you've got people at the launch point and you have people who are in mastery. What do we do about the mastery folks? And hi, Ivan, welcome. So to me, what we're talking about here takes the people who are launching and the people who are in mastery, and it matches them up and gives them both something to learn that's new, because being a coach is not something that everybody's good at. They need to learn how to do it well. So let me pause for
Leah, when you guys did the coaching, did you actually, because coaching and mentoring really are two different things. Coaching is more support and accountability for the person being coached, where to me mentorship is actually teaching somebody and helping them, you know, really gain a skill. So did you take those people that you set up as coaches and train them in a coaching methodology?
Yes, so those are, and that's why I say it varies based on the size of your organization. Those are true coaches. They're hired. They are people who were either sellers or sales managers and then are transitioned into coaching and go through coaching program. And you're absolutely right. And I actually think that the value of having both coaches and mentors, you know, if you can do that, even strengthens the learning journey or continuous learning. So and I know Ivan, you just joined. Feel free to jump in if you'd like to share your thoughts at any point. This is an open dialogue. But any other thoughts on we're currently talking about the learning journey for someone who's launching, someone new to a sales role.
I think it's incumbent upon us to have a ready-made journey and a journey that's agreed upon. What's the end game in mind with sales leadership or revenue leadership, whatever we're calling it these days, but the big organizational leadership. You need to have that agreed upon goal, first of all, or goals, and then agree upon a path to get there. And then we need to provide those checkpoints and specifics to the mentors and the coaches, because I've seen that break down, Leah, where, hey, Leah, you go and mentor Lisa, and we'll see you in 3 months. And, you know, we'll check in once per month. We'll have a quick 15-minute
assessment. No qualification, no evaluation. Yeah, that's scary.
And it's like, well, wait, what am I supposed to be teaching them? What are they supposed to be shadowing me on? What am I good at? So you chose me as a mentor. Give me some clues as to why you chose me and what I should be really focusing on as this particular person's coach or mentor.
Great point. Great points. The one that resonates most with me is the agreement with stakeholders. And I would even take it to the next level, which is not just agreement from stakeholders and sales leaders, whatever we're calling them now, but the buy-in all the way through. And I'll give you an example. We're doing a sales endorsement of all of our sellers who've completed the pre-work and the workshop for a specific payment solution. And the sales leaders are fully bought in. And on the teams page where I have all the materials, the sales leaders and the managers are on there, and the managers can see the sales leaders saying things like, my expectation is X. And, you know, I say that for two reasons, because it's a great tool to have everybody transparent on the same page, but also because in my opinion, if the sales leaders aren't bought in to your continuous learning journey for a seller, the seller's not going to be bought in at all. Because, and here's where my next slide comes in, the obstacles. What are the obstacles that we face in sales enablement and training to getting that learning journey to happen?
I'll give you a big one that I think plagues the entire sales profession is turnover.
Mhm.
I, I s- I can't say that enough, but I think part of it is that sales is a persistence profession. You got to come in and you're like a dealer at Harrah's Casino in New Orleans. You got to come in there and wheel and deal as fast as you can. And you got to close that deal within a small window of opportunity because otherwise you lose customer. But I'll say that because you got to retain those employees. But what I have noticed is in the sales that I have done it 10 years, when the training is better, employees are likely to stay.
That's a great point. And I think it goes beyond just training being better. To go back to the S curve, if I'm through with my launch and I'm in my sweet spot, so I'm comfortable in my job, I'm good at what I do, and now I'm getting a little bit bored, then training or learning has to be engaging, and it has to be something that I see value in as a seller. Otherwise, why bother? I have my job. I don't have a lot of extra time. To your point, I am focused on closing deals. Um, so I see that in terms of creating continuous learning in that. If we jump to the people who are comfortable in their role and good at it, maybe they haven't mastered it, but they're good at it. How do we say to them, you need more? I mean, sometimes I actually feel kind of cynical saying, here's a training that I know you need. I'm not always sure they do.
The big thing you have to do is compassionate feedback. And it was a concept I learned today where you're honest in your feedback, but you're very compassionate about it. And you tell them they'll improve here and do that. But you got to start with why. You got to tell them, here's, I think you could be closing more deals. You get more commissions. You know, if you hit this a little harder, bang, you can win the jackpot. You know, and you when you start with that why, I think the best way to tell the person is you could make more money. You know, you're not, you might be too nice with the customer. You might be not direct enough. We're going to train you to be a hard hitter for those sales. And so that's just a skill I've learned through the years.
That's an interesting one. Antoinette or Ivan, do you want to share your thoughts on this? The idea of the people in the sweet spot who maybe don't see the need for more learning or a continuous journey.
Yeah, so I've been taking a lot of notes and listening. I like the why. And so when it comes to the why, we also we put out the organization goals and why we're trying to get, to our certain goal or sales revenue, but also what's their why. I like when the learners kind of focus on the reason why they're doing it. They need to be motivated to push more, right? And so why are they doing it? Because they want to help their family or whatever that may be. And so having that motivation will normally have them reflect on like and kind of push them more. I think that pushes them more than the organization's why. But yeah,
I
that's
think
just
you're absolutely, it's so interesting that you say that because I think that that's something that we often miss is number one, help working with them to develop a continuous learning path that feeds their desire to learn, not just what we think is important or what sales leaders think is important, but giving them that option. And also just making them part of, I think for buy-in, making them part of the conversation. And a lot of times, and I'll admit it, I don't think it's done often enough in my organization where we stop and ask the sellers, do you want to improve upon? What do you want to learn this year? Now, as an organization, I think we do. We've got an amazing, with LinkedIn Learning and other opportunities to grow, but specific to selling and selling performance, I'm not sure that we ask why often enough. I think that's a really great point. What else do you guys think in terms of obstacles that we're facing when it comes to creating those learning paths for any of the three? Let's say the launch, why am I stuck on this one? Sweet spot, or the people who are in mastery, those tenured sellers.
Okay, I'll speak up if I see for those that are not tied at the hip within your respective companies with sales ops, then you need to be. And I know it's not always easy. If you might not even have a sales ops, depending on the maturity of your business. And that in itself is a real challenge. And when it comes to motivating, Antoinette was talking about motivation and talking about the why. But for me, anytime if I have somebody in sales or sales leadership who is resistant, then okay, let's go back and look at something you do understand and that you do pay attention to, which is numbers or dollars, euros, yen. And let's look at your, there's nobody in this line of work that hits 100%. They don't close every deal. Nobody is 100% close rate. And so if you average a 25% to 33% is average in the tech community for close rate. And so if you're losing more often than you're winning, clearly there's something that you can improve upon there. I hope that message would go without saying for them, Leah. And so let's dig in. If you have sales ops support, you can maybe get granular with, okay, Reagan isn't so good at this. Andrew, on the other hand, Andrew is really good at this. Let's connect those two.
Yeah, and that's an interesting piece of the puzzle is that identification of your gaps. Mm-hmm. And again, I mean, for me, we're busy creating training and developing learning paths. And in fact, we do have an endorsement process now that I'm very proud of because we do have the sellers go through a scenario and present based on a customer, and they have to show that they can do it. But then what? It's that piece of, first of all, I don't always think people care if their why isn't getting better. If my why isn't improving, it doesn't matter how much training we throw at them, they're not going to want to. So there's that piece. But also, I feel like you're right about the fact that they need to know and they need the granularity, but we have to figure out how to measure it and figure out those gaps and then show that to them. Mm-hmm. And probably, I don't know, I think it'd be interesting to know how they want to see it too. My curiosity piques with how would we present to a group of sellers their strengths and opportunities and have them be open to, oh, I really want to improve upon that. Because everybody just says it's a competitive thing. They're competitive or they want money. I think there's more to it than that.
I think the best way you can do that, Leah, I'll try to answer that a little bit through assessments. Mm-hmm. You might take periodic assessments from 2 or 3 managers of the employee and say, well, we've seen your sales process. You could improve this, change this, ease off the gas here, and you'd be doing higher numbers.
I like ease off the gas comment because I think sometimes there is like, oh, you're going a little fast on that one. Mm-hmm. Good point. So let me jump to the next question. Let me see if my whoops, I wasn't supposed to show you that yet. Hold on. Oh, my animations are dying. So what do great learning cultures have? We've talked about it a little bit. You just said 1, assessment. I'm showing you 3, so I'm giving you some understanding. So targeted learning programs. We know that when it's targeted to a certain group, like the group that's new or the group that's older and more tenured. And we talked about coaching. And the one we haven't really talked about is growth mindset, which I think is more of a culture, a corporate culture thing. And when you have leadership who says things like learn-it-alls do better than know-it-alls, which we actually have a guy in London that says that all the time, and it always sounds so good. So what are some other things that come to mind for you that are great learning culture elements, great elements of learning culture?
Well, this is Lisa. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Keep walking.
Okay. Yeah. No, I mean, to me, some of the key things are, and you really already highlighted on some of them, though, is getting people that are maybe at a mastery level more engaged with helping others to get to that level. Sometimes it might, you talk about salespeople are always, in a competitive mode. Maybe to help the people at the mastery level want to give back and be more involved in the learning process, have just have programs where they can sign up and maybe they get compensation, they get awards, they're given something in return for volunteering and doing some of these things. I just think so many of those programs, like this wasn't in the sales arena, but it could apply in the sales arena. We had a program to help develop our manufacturing site. So, helping people take accountability for their own learning. And so we did workshops, and after the workshops, we provided internal coaches who worked within the organization, and people could sign up with them to progress to different parts of their career with that internal coaching support. Because like you said, a lot of people, they can't afford a regular coach or to pay for a coach, and organizations can't do that.
Yeah.
When they have internal people trained in coaching, and they can let them, allocate, 2 hours a week or an hour a week to help, a couple different people, things like that. There's things you can do that you're not actually paying them directly, but you can give incentives. And that's basically what it really is the incentives.
I love that. I think that, that's being creative, even if you don't have the corporate culture around it. So guys, feel free to jump in and annotate if you can. I think you can all write, and if you click the annotate button on your Zoom, you're welcome to write on my slide. I'm not afraid to see lots of different words. Otherwise, I will just write what I hear you say. But what do they have in common? All right, Ivan. Sometimes it's fun because we write on top of each other, and that's always fun too.
No, but I totally agree. And I was thinking about that. How can we get the people that are the master level more engaged, and possibly incorporate them into the training? I don't know if there can possibly be a exclusive group. So for the people that are at that mastery level, they are then selected to just provide feedback on the training, or even maybe if the videos included, they can be a part of the videos. But it kind of provides that recognition and kind of acknowledging that they are at a different level and that we are still trying to help them get exposure. Hopefully that motivates them to do more. But yeah, incorporating them into, I don't know if some companies would even sponsor them to be a part of a coaching program. So they have this different type of training, so they are more equipped and prepared to help others. But yeah.
Yeah, no, those are all excellent ideas. It's funny, I'm smiling because I've had 2 calls this week. We did a recording with a sales leader who is in her mastery zone and was promoted by, her manager told me, I want her to be the voice of your next training based on her knowledge of the topic that we're talking about. So I have spent a number of hours with her doing a training video recently. And I completely agree. I think that there's a way to make them feel as if they're part of the training process. And I think it also improves their value of training. They see the value of training because they understand that we care enough to ask for their input. By the way, if you click, there's a text. There's a draw, but there's also a text. I don't know if you can see my annotation on the screen. But if you click the text box, you can add, but you don't have to. You can also just share and walk through.
Leah, one other thing I was thinking, because in one of the training roles I had, we were looking at the progression for different roles. So within the sales organization, you could also have, when people get to the mastery level, if they're really interested in accelerating their career and moving to the next level, maybe being a mentor or a coach is part of the steps they have to do before they can be considered to move up to the next level.
That is an interesting idea. So,
I mean, just put it in. I know we had in a lot of the roles that we had when I was in an HR role, to get from one level to the next, they had certain expectations. And so in the sales arena, if you're really good in the sales process, maybe you have to spend 3 months or 6 months as a coach before you can be considered for a sales management role.
I think that,
I don't know.
I think Reagan may have written, I don't know if it was Ivan or Reagan, leadership that learns sets the example for the company and the organization.
That was me.
Okay, thank you. Totally agree with that. You and I have both worked with a gentleman named John Byrne.
Yep.
John was at AMD with Reagan and I, and now he's at Dell. And let me tell you, this is a guy who cares about training and about his sellers being the best they can be. And when we have, that to me is like liquid gold. You can't have a leader who cares more than that. So I would almost flip it. What do we do if we have an organization where the sales leaders also think my sellers need to be focused on selling, my sellers need to be focused on end of quarter. So I'm flipping back to the obstacles, just to be a naysayer for a minute, devil's advocate. Well, how do we deal with that in the learning culture?
Come on, Leah, end of quarter's a no-fly zone.
That's how we deal with it, to be honest. And my team has recently made a full-on commitment, and honestly, I absolutely love it. Sorry. Can you please get the dog? Thank you. My team, has made a full commitment to leadership that between week 11 and week 13 of the quarter, we will not launch anything. The best part about that, as a sales enablement person, guess what I get to do during weeks 11 through 13? It's a question, really. What do I get to do? I'm not on vacation. I get to design with nobody bothering me, with no pressure, because we've set up a cadence where we roll out training the first or second, even the third week of the quarter, and the rest of the month or the time, we're either designing or we're taking a break mentally or doing our own training. But we're very committed to, you said leave us alone at end of quarter, we are leaving you alone. And when we do come to them with a 15-minute video or something that has just in time, it has to go out, it relates to a launch of a product or whatever it is, they're okay with that, because we have generally set up a situation where we're leaving them alone and we've respected that, no-fly zone. So I'll get off my what's it called, soapbox now.
That's awesome.
Thoughts, questions, comments? I forgot to hit the I have another, well, I thought-
Now, you definitely use that as leverage. I mean, you're dealing with salespeople. They're in the world of negotiation, and you do the same thing right back to them. And I think that they respect that when you bring something to the table and you ask for a commitment in return.
Yes.
They tend to take you a little more seriously. But yeah, I can tell you, Leah, we've worked for people, I think we probably all have, that don't feel like they have anything else to learn. And then we've worked for people like John Byrne and the company that I'm currently working for. We get on company meetings and they talk about the books that they're reading, for example, right now. They talk about, this is what I learned. This is what I'm currently learning. I was speaking with my mentor recently, for example, and to hear the president or the CEO or the CFO of the company say that she was learning, or he learned this, she learned that from her mentor. It shows a little bit of vulnerability. And I think that you have to have that and that's essential for the learning culture, is set the ego aside and have a little bit of vulnerability throughout the organization.
I think that's a huge, huge point, whether it's in learning or in leadership. I think that
Yep.
I do think 2020 has helped us to be more honest about that we're all pretty much just trying to make it, and being vulnerable and saying, I don't know everything at every level. And that, I want to go back to what Antoinette said about, the why.
Mm-hmm.
It would be so interesting to me to talk to sellers and ask them, what is it that you really want to learn this year and why? And maybe think about it from the perspective of, and I put this in here, options and on-demand learning that isn't necessarily what we need them to learn or what sales leadership says they have to learn, but maybe we pepper in some of the fun stuff that they just are fascinated by. And it might be coaching, and it might be, something completely random, dog training so your dog doesn't bark during Zoom calls. The other piece that I added to this, and I didn't realize I was writing over it, but scenario-based assessments, I think we talked about that, and Andrew, you mentioned it, Drew, that you have to assess. You have to have a cadence along with creating learning. You have to have a cadence that works for coming back around and evaluating. One thing that seems to be working for us is that we've got foundational learning, and then we've got more in-depth positioning, and then we have the how to execute, which might be process oriented. Are there forms and files or pricing tools or whatever? And then we wrap that with an endorsement, with a scenario and an endorsement, so that at the end of that, they know you're going to be going through this process. This is your learning journey, and that when that's done, there's going to be another loop that brings you, or another path. Hopefully they won't roll their eyes and hate us by the end of it. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is something called collaboration mechanisms. Have any of you worked in organizations where they had chatter, or I'm trying to think, there's a couple, I'm looking, let me get my actual deck because I have had it in my notes. What was the name of, I think there was an organization that mentioned it specifically. Let me see here. It's not IBM. It's a company called Tata Consulting. Let me see what they said. I'm looking for the name of it. Nope, that's not it. Sorry. Give me 1 second, because I had it in here and I wanted to share it with you guys. The idea of different ways that companies let their learners share with each other. It wasn't that.
Leah, that sounds almost like communities of practice within an organization, within a sales organization.
Yeah, and I wanted to share the title of it. One of them is a 90-day program with workshops and online, but the other one that I was looking at, I must not have grabbed that note. So anyway, never mind. Do any of your organizations, or Antoinette, have you worked with companies that had that kind of, like, even a Teams page where people could share things they've learned or ideas?
Yeah, actually, within Cornerstone LMS, there was an area that had like a discussion board that different teams within their teams or across teams could communicate about different things that they're learning about. We created like SharePoint pages that allow for discussions and stuff like that. Now I actually use Notion, and in Notion, I'm able to provide like a discussion page or whoever's in that team, so they can share their experience or anything that they want to talk about there as well.
Oh, excellent. Well, thank you for sharing that. So Notion, that's an interesting one. So, and Ivan, you mentioned a couple. I will say Slack is huge for ATD Austin, all of the board. And in fact, we have a number of member Slacks. We have a sales enablement Slack. So if you're not part of it, please join it. But yeah, you gave a couple of cool ones. Workplace by Facebook, Bitrix 24, I hadn't heard of that. Clear Slides. So I think that that's a piece of the continuous journey that maybe some of us or some of our directors who are more controlling and don't want to just allow for anything goes. I personally think that collaboration mechanisms are essential to making that learning a social thing, to making it something that we all just do together. Lisa, did you have
Well, and something else. I mean, I joined. It's called the Sales Enablement Society. So it's not a particular organization, but it's people that are engaged in sales enablement can go out and find out what other people in the community are doing for different avenues. And I think that's been helpful because you get ideas about what's working well within different industries or other organizations.
And I'm going to skip that second exercise for today. We'll come back to that on another day. But I feel like one of the things that we've talked about here, and in breaking it down into the different parts of the learning journey, so the new to role, the person who's comfortable, and the person who's mastering, for me, it helps me to think about how different their journeys have to be. Sorry, losing my voice here. So before we wrap up, I'm curious as to, if you think about it from those different perspectives, what are some of the similarities that would be across, to make it easier for us in sales enablement? What are some things that we could do for all three stages of a learner?
Continuous mentoring,
I like that.
a common curriculum across all of our goals.
I like it. That makes me think of the idea that our learners know what to expect. So, and I think Reagan said it in terms of the sales leaders know what to expect. But I was thinking when you were saying that, Reagan, that also you have to have a journey map for the sellers so that they know what to expect.
Yeah, we have toward that end, we have a pretty detailed skills assessment. And every single person is evaluated on that skills assessment. Let's just say it's about 20, maybe 24 categories. It's so it's a little over the top maybe, but still, nobody's perfect across the board, across all 24 categories. And so at the very least, you could go through there and say, all right, well, Ivan is this, Andrew's that, Lisa's this, Antoinette's that. And it gives everybody something to work on, because again, nobody's perfect, and it gives every single manager, basically it gives everybody the same songbook to sing from, because managers know, everybody knows what's expected.
Yeah.
Because the managers agreed on the skills assessment. They said, these are the things this is what's going to make somebody successful here.
Yeah.
And everybody should be marching to that. And whether you've been here for 10 days or 10 years, you're marching to those same skill sets.
So consistency is a similarity, regardless of which bucket the seller falls into. That makes me think about, so one of the things that we went from the assessment process to a badging process. A couple of years ago, Dell Technologies moved into the badging process, which is, I know what my foundational learning is, and these are the courses and the things I need to master to be foundational. And as I move into different roles, each role, I know exactly what I need for, you know, I guess, foundation, intermediate, and advanced, which is the same three as the S curve we're talking about. And I can become advanced if I want to be, if I'm self-motivated, if that's my why, or I can stick to whatever lane I'm in at the time, but I can't get promoted to the next job. And I think, Andrew, you mentioned that at one point, you can't move up unless you've achieved that level of mastery. So whatever it is, and again, it's agreed upon. So I think those are the similarities. What I would ask you to think about for the next couple of days and come back to the Slack channel to chat about is, what are the differences in those three different buckets between the, you know, foundation of new learners, new sellers, the sellers who are in role and happy where they are, and sellers who are tenured and tell us the training doesn't matter at all. And yes, thank you. I can just share it. I think I can either I'll share it or I'll email it to you. Let me see if I can open my Slack and I'll even show it to you. Crazy Slack channel. I'm supposed to have you guys do an evaluation of sorts, and I'm still trying to figure out if I click the polls, if it's going to get me there, because it's a new process for us. We felt that rather than sending you just one more email, because everybody's getting email, that we would ask for some anonymous feedback in advance. So here's my crazy Slack channel, and in here is, let's see, so where is it, where to go? Sales enablement. So let me see if anybody on the call knows how I can share it. Let me see. Channels, files, people. It's part of the ATD Austin channel. So that might be, so Reagan, let me work on that because I have to figure out how to invite you.
If I'm not one of the cool kids, that's fine. Don't
I
invite
added a link, so if you just go to that link, Reagan, and then in Slack, just look for the sales enablement channel. It should be in there.
To go in here. Which one? Right there?
I'm not sure how to do like a direct channel link, maybe like in the eye in the top right, but I added just a link to the general ATD Austin.
Yeah, I think I have to connect you to the general Austin ATD, and then that one is open.
Okay.
Thank you, Ivan.
Thank you.
So we'll take that one offline. Give me a second. I'm going to try to throw a poll in here. Oh no, that's not going to work. So, all right, so I might just have to send you guys an email, but let me share a couple things with you. I think most of you already know about the membership. There is a huge membership drive going on. In fact, I have my letter from ATD right here reminding me that I need to sign up, and there's a huge discount for power and regular ATD memberships. And ATD Austin is also going to do some discounting. So just wanted to be sure you knew about that. And then can I ask you, are any of you seeing our social media? Because we have a new person doing social media who I think is phenomenal. And I want to make sure people actually.
I thought she was doing a really good job, Leah. I've seen a lot more out there lately.
Okay, cool. And if you're not connected to us on social, this is a reminder to please connect, because we're trying to do a lot more of that 80-20. Oh, thank you, Ivan. The 80% educate and 20% market. to our members and our guests. So we really want to, hear from you all. And again, I'm looking at this going, why are these green and gray? I'm going to have to change that. But we do want you to connect. And then lastly, I'm going to pull up the ATD site, because this is not the only event that happens. Although I want you guys to come back for more conversation. I thought it might help to show you what's happening on the calendar for the rest of the month for ATD Austin, if you wouldn't mind. And thank you, Antoinette.
I just wanted to jump in and say sorry for jumping in late and being quiet. It's my first one. I've never, done one of these. So next time I'll try to be more participative.
No, you know what? There's room for people to both listen and talk. And I'm trying to learn to be a better listener and not talk as much. That's my 2021 goal. I'm not sure I'm going to meet that goal. Those of you who know me know me. But
yeah, that's my wife's goal for me every year.
I think that's my husband's goal. But
yeah.
you are always welcome to join and listen, or join and talk, or annotate. I will try to, use all the skills. If we have larger groups, we'll do some breakout sessions and things of that sort. So hang on, I have to go to the public view. I was in here doing we're doing our website redesign, by the way, and we are looking for people who are interested in helping with that. Even if it's just to say, that looks horrible, you need to fix it. We are looking for input on our website, which we know is not 2021 worthy. So I'll just put that pitch out if anybody's interested. We're doing it's called Website Reimagine. But anyway, I wanted you to know that there are a couple of cool sessions coming up. We have an LMS session for those of you who, I know most of us already are very familiar with LMSs, but it might be an interesting conversation around what's new in that arena. We have a networking session. Those are very fun. You can bring a drink or not. That's with Melissa Love, who's a whole lot of fun. Jeff Johannigman is phenomenal. He's been doing career coaching for years, and I believe he's doing that with Catherine. That's for our career community of practice. And then we have an April webinar for new members. So if you're just joining and you want to learn more, and then you can also always click in to see. And I did want to point out that I was able to get the discount code. Shh, don't tell anyone, Reagan. The ATD Houston is having a tech conference. And so for members, we did get the discount code. So yay. And we can talk offline on the Slack thing. I don't know if you got it. So any last thoughts before I jump and run to the car and throw out the football gear and throw the lacrosse gear in?
Thank you for organizing this, Leah.
Yeah, thank you.
My pleasure.
I have a quick question. Is it always at the same time on Tuesdays?
So it's going to be every other month on Tuesdays from 4:30 to 6, usually. Today we have to truncate it because I screwed up. But yeah, it will be either 4:30 to 5:30, depending on conversation, or 4:30 to 6, but we're trying to be very intentional about the days. So all of our communities of practice are now on Tuesdays. They're either the second, the third year. I'll show you this because we just dropped this in here. The career transition is the second Tuesday. The sales enablement is the fourth Tuesday every other month. And learning technologies with Tiffany Rhodes is the fourth Tuesday. So it's always Tuesday. And I think Tiffany and I are on this at the same time, 4:30 to 6. Catherine does hers at lunch. So that's the career one. You can always jump in. And you're always welcome to just join, and you don't have to come on camera. You can, whatever you're comfortable with.
Right on, cool. Thank you. Yeah, I'm gonna be late like every time, but still, it's okay.
That's
Okay,
okay.
I'll try to join.
That is totally fine. I was gonna say, you know, I looked at my calendar today and I had to call in, phone a friend to say, we have football practice. I don't know what to do. So, not a problem. And I might pull one of you guys in to facilitate at some point. You never know.
Sure.
Watch
Happy
out.
to.
That'd be awesome. Cool,
Happy
cool.
to help.
All right. Well, it was great to see you both.
You
And
too, Leah. You too. I got to run to go pick up my son now.
you know. All right.
I know the drill. All right.
Bye.
See you.
Here.